So there's on table a couple of proposed resolutions for 9B and 9C.
Okay, we're just going to call them B and C resolutions, right?
One's residence, the other one's joint fire chief.
Okay. B resolution.
Residence, and the other one's
Residence.
joint fire chief.
Resolution joint
Statement.
statement, fire statement, I'll just call it.
And Carl,
So-
could I ask for 7B, and we'll just call it website update?
Yeah. Website update. Anybody else?
Yeah. 10B, as in Bob, is that's additional bylaw that I sent around regarding
The
bylaw
bylaw
enforcement.
officer bylaw?
Yeah.
Bylaw?
Mm-hmm. And
10B, that one was?
10B, that one.
10B.
Yeah.
I guess maybe as part of 10A, which is the Board of Variance bylaw, adoption is being considered tonight. We might want to have a 10A1, which would be reappointment or appointment of Board of Variance members.
Isn't that in the
Well,
another agenda?
I think we can deal with it tonight. We can deal with it in open at that point in time because we do not have any applicants for the third position, which is currently vacant, assuming you wish to reappoint Messrs. Mackey and Wrigglesworth. So I would suggest that you, if that's what you're going to do anyways, then just do it in open, or you can consider and talk about it in closed, and then when we reopen, make your appointments.
Do the reporting out,
or
yeah.
reappointments afterwards.
Okay, I
Up to
prefer
you.
to keep that one in the closed agenda for now.
Okay.
Depending on, it's because I want to understand a few things before we
Alright.
get there.
Okay.
Okay, so we won't do that one.
And I think that's it for me for now.
Okay, all good?
Did we add, sorry, did we add 90 and 90?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
I'll
Do
read
you
that away
have
from
extra
the-
copies of the bylaws? Is that good as
I've
well?
got one here.
I've got it here.
It was on the
Got it,
table,
It's right here.
everywhere but you're in front of you. There it
Jim
is.
printed one out.
Oh, there it is, okay.
Okay, so the motion's on the table for approval of the agenda. It's been seconded. Can I have all in favor of the agenda as amended? Thank you, and opposed, that carries. So public participation is next on the agenda. Mr. Vlad, please. You don't have to speak into the mics because they're not
Yeah.
connected to anything. But
Okay, on the council, thanks for taking me such a short notice. The reason I'm here tonight is that we had, it's a small complaint, I think maybe to me, bigger for the village. We had the BC Hydro contractors cutting the trees along the line in the cul-de-sac. And then we just had our little dog walking on the outside with the kids, and she came back and was full of oil, like hydraulic oil. And then I went to cul-de-sac, and my kids, they were full of oil everywhere, and just came and I went in the cul-de-sac, and I'm assuming that's around maybe 20 to 30 liters of hydraulic oil split everywhere in the cul-de-sac on the green belt. And then we had put aside the rocks to finish the wall there in the front with the native garden and everybody else, and all those rocks are now full of oil. All of them are, it's a big, if you go there, you're gonna be amazed. The entire cul-de-sac there, which is that, you know, that water line which has been fixed and all that, everything is full of oil, including the trees.
so they had a line on their hoist.
You don't have big trees in front of them there.
Because they cut, they chopped down the trees, right? So I guess they had a hose broken or something,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it's
okay.
everywhere,
Alright,
like
there
pretty
you go.
much absolutely everywhere.
And those things hold thousands of liters of hydraulic fluid.
And you know it's hydraulic fluid.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean because I know I'm working in it, so you touch it and
Yeah,
it smells
yeah,
like
yeah.
it, and it feels like it. It's purely hydraulic oil.
Yeah, a hose burst, right? I mean,
Yeah.
fairly
Yeah.
obvious.
Like a
Okay,
So
so we know who
that
the
is
contractor
huge.
is. It's BC Hydro's contractor, correct, Peter?
It would be.
I presume it
It
is.
was
Yeah.
because
It's the-
I drove all over the place.
I'll remember the name by in another minute.
Yeah, it's not north, it's not west,
No, it's the White Trees,
Yeah.
Western Tree Service, there it is.
Western Tree Service.
Loosen the
I knew it
tire a
was
little bit.
direction.
Loosen the tire a little bit, it'll come to you quicker.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the heads up.
Guys-
I hadn't heard of that yet, so that's
Well, I think
Sorry.
just happened the other day because they were there, and my
Western
wife told me
Tree
that they
Service.
heard they stopped for like a very long time working, and after that they just took off.
Do you have a day?
I think 2 days ago, Monday,
No,
Monday
Tuesday.
or Friday, one of
Today's
the
Tuesday.
yeah Tuesday, so Friday. That was Friday,
This-
Friday last week.
The 17th.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask like more exactly if it is, then I can call tomorrow in. Gonna ask my wife the exact date and time. But I'm telling you right now, somebody should go look. It's
Yeah, I first saw them.
Oh, yeah, no,
super
that's-
tight.
Tuesday.
that
and
needs
they-
cleanup,
I saw
isn't
them
it?
again on Thursday, so I know they were here.
And
You-
it was
you
the
haven't
white
seen-
trucks?
Yes, there was the white truck. So.
You know, they had about 4 trucks, right?
Yeah.
With the big
Yeah, they did.
buckets and,
Yeah.
and the booms and... Okay,
It's,
so...
it's a very big like environmental issue. Like I'm telling you right now, you guys will get next. Everybody's gonna get
Yeah, okay, well, thanks for bringing it to our attention. So
Thank
you
very
guys
much
can
for
handle
your
it?
time, guys.
Do you need a resolution to direct you to obtain recompense, clean up, whatever?
no,
Yeah,
we'll-
it's
we'll
administrative.
pursue
They
them.
may be aware of it and, you know, be planning a cleanup crew to come in.
They should have
told us,
reported it
but,
when it
yeah.
happened.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I can check.
And that's,
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Thank you very
recent.
much, guys.
Thank
That
you.
was it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Fantastic, thanks. Okay, that's good to know. That's easily solvable, I suppose, although it's going to be a bit of a mission to clean up if...
I'll document and provide info.
Okay, delegations being none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. The first being of the regular meeting of the 7th. No, I didn't have anything on that one. Anybody else? So can we have a motion to approve those minutes and a second? Any further discussion? All in favour of approval of the minutes of the meeting of the 7th and opposed? That carries. And same again for the special meeting of June 14th.
I had nothing.
This was obviously just the agenda that's got us into the closed session. So motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? That carries. So those meeting minutes are approved. Shauna, business arising from the minutes? There are none. Peter, that's correct, right? We're not doing the tasks anymore. Those are going straight into IRRs, just remind us.
Yeah, they're going to go into a resolution index because yeah, it'll go. You know, if it's a task to be done.
It'll go into the
Yeah.
their
Yeah,
schedule.
but if it's a resolution that council passes that something be done, then it'll go onto the resolutions. You know, for now, I'll get it on the resolutions tab of the IRR, but ultimately, I want to have an index
Actual
of
index, yeah.
resolutions
Well-
that are everything as all the resolutions. So
Just to remind council, I've asked for a resolution index starting from the beginning of this council on the 5th of December.
I hope you don't mind if we start with
No, we start with the
Beginning of the
live
year.
ones, obviously.
start at the
Yeah,
beginning of the year, and then we'll go back and pick up whatever else.
yeah. I mean, the point being there to show what we've done
Yep.
over the term. So, is there ever going to be a need for this agenda item again? Business arising.
Yeah, you leave business arising there because there can be things that are just sort of follow-up items or questions arise or something's happened since the meeting that a
You wanna
councillor
update
or
on?
you want to draw everybody's attention to. So yeah, no, it's a standard item that would be on the agenda
Okay,
on,
good.
on a regular basis.
Let's move on then to unfinished business, starting with IRR, starting on page 11. Shall we do the usual drill here? We'll spend 20 minutes and see how far we get. Unless we want to extend it, but let's get going on
I'll
this.
be happy to time.
Okay, so it's 7:10 now. We'll go to 7:30 and see how we feel.
Yeah, so on the agenda itself, the order was backwards. So on the agenda itself would be page 15, but we've got the big 11 by 17s to work
Yeah.
with, so it's the first page of the 11 by 17s.
Yeah. Okay, how shall we do this? Pick a number, any number.
All we have is one page. That's what we're down to. So let's just roll through
Oh,
it.
fine, okay, good. Item 25, this was mine, secondary suites bylaw, requesting a report.
It was how many people had filed for inspection. And I thought we had Sorry, I'm embarrassed. I thought we'd come up with a number already for this, but
I don't
I'll
recall
have to
it.
get that number.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, off the top of your head?
It was, no, I'm not going to guess.
Okay. The reason that I thought this would be useful information for council is to understand the efficacy of the bylaw and to see if there's something else we should be doing. Because obviously this is a self-reported tax, which
What was the number for the, is it 375 for the suites?
for the additional amount for the suite, no, much more this from this year on, because
Because if I did it for last year, I think we collected $7,000 last year, so you can,
do the
sounds
math.
like 21
Yeah.
to 23.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget the intent of the secondary suite bylaw is, to my mind at least, is the safety inspection. That's the thing that's really valuable. I'm less interested in the monetary aspect of recouping some additional utility fee costs. Quite frankly, I believe that it's actually more an income tax than a utility cost. But I would like to know that, just for public safety reasons, that our secondary suites are inspected for, you know, the standard building code stuff. 3 foot high egress from bedrooms, smoke stops in the ceiling, all that stuff. Okay, so that's the reason so that I want to know how many have been inspected.
It's just proper fire stopping in case there's extra cooking or extra wiring going on in the basement that wasn't normally built there in the house when it was built.
But that
All that
our
stuff,
safety
and that's
inspection
all.
doesn't talk
Yeah.
to that. We don't inspect the wiring or the plumbing.
So it depends on the
Building
year,
permit.
the year,
There
you
should
know,
be a building permit for it.
Yeah, but most of them were not put in with building permits, as you know.
depends on the age of the secondary suite and which provisions apply. There's like 3 different,
But how do you allow a secondary suite when you know there's been additional wiring done and there's been no permit
So
issue
the-
for that?
So our secondary suite bylaw says, and it's the as amended one, says fire stopping in the ceiling, bedroom egress, fire doors, connected CO CO smoke alarm. And there's one more, which, oh, the parking thing. If you can't provide parallel next to each other parking, you have to put something on title to say that you're providing tandem parking, a covenant on title. Although I objected on a personal basis to the wording of the covenant, and Peter's still looking at that. Those are the 5 things that the secondary suite bylaw. So it's a little onerous but you've got to go through this inspection, which I fully support.
Are you looking really for a number, or is this a bigger report issue?
No, I just want to see what sort of take-up
Okay.
we have
Well-
in compliance with the secondary suite bylaw.
I'm aware of at least one complaint, okay, where we have an issue based on garbage pickup, about number of garbage cans out in front of houses, and it turns out that one of my neighbors said every single house that puts out 4 or 5 extra garbage cans for pickup is one where there's a secondary suite. that's
Pretty
not
clear
registered.
indication, yeah.
Alleged non-compliance?
Yes, that's right. So I'm just curious, I'd like to know how widespread, if it is a problem in the village, or it's just 1 or 2 people.
Yeah, maybe, Ron, this is to be, maybe this is a bigger project,
I think this is a bigger project.
because maybe
It
we
is.
have to set up a hotline, a snitch line or something, if we really want to do this right.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a lot of non-compliant suites. Many places have more than 1 suite, as you know. I'm only really interested from the safety perspective.
Yeah, no, it's not, for me, it's not a regulatory thing either. It's the safety side of it as well.
Yeah.
Plus, it annoys a lot of people, especially with the lack of parking that we have on a lot of our streets.
Okay, so for starters, anyway, just to understand.
Actually, if I could, sorry, Carl, if you could, when you're doing your number, if you could chat with the building inspector and see how many is actively involved in now, like, or none? Like, assuming they're all compliant, Peter? Because if he says they're all compliant and we're thinking maybe they're not, then that's definitely...
Of the ones he's seen, that's the problem.
Well,
I want to know how many he knows about.
if you could get a flavor for what building inspectors think. And
That's
not-
all I'm
not-
really
not-
asking.
Not a report.
I know that when the return came out last year, I said, yes, I have a secondary suite, and I was the first inspection. So I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Maybe I moved really fast.
Well, you're,
But
B,
or maybe I was one of the few. I don't know. That's what I really want to know. How many more of those were there? Okay, so we'll move on to that one. That's enough on that one. Tax bill. Can we effect any changes to the tax bill layout and wording? I provided some requests to Peter on changes. some of which made it into the tax bill I saw, in terms of just typos and spelling mistakes and also explanation. Probably good enough. So,
And it's out the door, so.
and it's out the door. So, maybe I'll look at this year's and see if there's any other changes. It was more, it's still, the layout of the tax bill is still confusing because there's not subtotal lines. So, there's lots of lines that look repetitive, and I understand why they're there, because some people will have different information there. It's more just a case of making it as simple as possible. But I think just take that one off. Can we affect any changes? The answer was yes, and they were done.
Ron.
Okay, so anti-encroachment marketing. This was in light of the findings of the IMP that we have severe encroachment. I guess what I was asking about here is, what does the beginnings of a campaign to alert the village to the fact that we have encroachment and it's time to start thinking about how to clear that up?
Well, if you recall, I undertook to do a full review and determine the best way to go forward with a comprehensive approach. So I'm still working on that, and the more I'm into it, the more strict I'm thinking we need to be in terms of encroachment. But some of that will depend upon decisions going forward in terms of what we do with our infrastructure and how we go about things. So I'm still working on that, and
Well, at least it's been moved onto the to-do list. So that's, as far as I'm concerned, that one's done.
yeah,
The answer is
it can
yes,
move
we
off
can.
it can move off of this page to a different page. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
It's one of those things that can be a very, very big ticket item if we're not careful.
Oh boy.
And so, because it goes everywhere in the village. I mean,
Yeah.
everywhere. There isn't a street that doesn't touch it.
Mhm.
So if we're going to try and fix it, that means we're going to be spending on it, and it's going to cost us. There's going to be a lot of aggravation, a lot of grief, and there's going to be a lot of construction costs around it, because you're going to have to remove bushes, trees, pave, do whatever, put water systems in, whatever the case is. And so I would think that it would be tied to the IMP somehow, and tied to the point when we do work on streets, when we go through a street, we do all the streets and all the works with the water lines and stuff like that, we then try and address it at that point.
Well, I mean, that's exactly right. I'm thinking that ultimately we end up with a policy on how we recover encroachments. And the first plan that we will see is this $30,000 study for the Bayview flume. Let's call it the flume, although it's not really a flume. One of the main questions that I want to understand what the policy will be is, when we recover the highway down up to the highway reservation line, who pays for the resulting embankment or retaining wall on the private property, which right now slopes right down onto grade. But if we want to recover that for future parking, especially around the fire hall and so on, who pays for the retaining wall? Us or the landowner? Because they don't need a retaining wall right now. They're doing fine. So that's what I want to know. It's what does this entail? What does an anti-encroachment campaign entail? So it looks like we're underway there, so that's great.
So
it's
that's off.
It's off or on? Still.
It's done. It's
Done?
done, as
Okay,
far as I'm
good.
concerned.
Well, it's
The answer is yes,
Well,
we can.
You're doing it in a different form.
yeah. There was a resolution already from council
so it's in
a
the
couple
back
months
pages
ago
here.
that we would that I.
Yeah, well, note the
pursued
date on my request, February, so
Yeah,
that was
yeah, so I
superseded.
could have taken this over actually. So.
Debt for fire hazard. Yeah, I mean, this is an ongoing topic. The issue. This one has also been superseded because discussions are underway with Modi to see if they would be prepared to get a fairly large project underway to at least take care of theirs that we would then piggyback on, along with the school district. So, just for council's information, I've met with the school district, and they are prepared to put a $50,000 budget line item placeholder in their next year's budget for this. This would take place this time next year. The thing is, if Modi doesn't do it, we still have a wildfire risk. And what are we going to do about it? This is, to my mind, one of the biggest risks facing the village.
Oh, I
And
thought that was part of some of the discussions we were having.
they haven't
with
said
them.
yes. It's
Okay.
we're still discussing.
Okay,
But it's all over.
yeah,
It's,
yeah,
I mean, as you can see, their part is the biggest.
yeah.
And depending on what happens here in the Centennial lands, which is our land, maybe we would leave that up to a future development thing, I don't know. But the school land is huge, and Peter and I went for a walk there last Friday. Some parts are worse than others, especially here. Where the Harrison Trail joins on with the Centennial Trail, this area here, which is mostly highway, this is terrible. There's 10 layers of trees on top of each other, and they're all up in the air. And to get them out of there, you're not going to get a tracked vehicle in there, that's for sure. That's chains, cables, helicopters. I don't know how it's done, not the forestry guy, but one spark that our fire department doesn't get to in time, the whole thing's gone up. And it's very steep. So that was what that was about, but I would suggest that line item has also been somewhat superseded now by more recent developments.
Right.
So I'm happy with taking that one off the list.
Okay.
Okay, you getting all these
Yep,
clear?
yep.
Okay. Water shortage plan. This was to understand what the recommendations were for the water shortage plan. You remember that the IC came up with one last year. It was never adopted by council and became academic because we never needed to implement any water shortage plan other than going to level 2 outdoor water use. That was the most stringent of the steps we went to. To remind you what the water shortage plan was all about was go through water use level 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 0, 1, 2, and 3. Then the next step was something like water barrels on street corners because at 3, you're talking about no outdoor use and starting to run out of water. Water barrels on street corners, topped up by public works. Then the next one was, it went all the way up to evacuation of the village.
I got a copy of it in here somewhere.
So I was looking for updates and suggestions, staff recommendations.
We're working on it.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've met with staff about it, we've talked about it, so
Okay.
it's putting those comments together for,
I mean, my suggestion is that it's just an edit to the existing document.
Mhm.
It may be a major edit, I don't know.
I could suggest maybe that could be a topic for the steering committee for the emergency program. Because once we get beyond level 3 or 2, then it becomes more of an emergency matter than business.
I agree. I mean, that was my most substantive comment on the emergency plan, that it didn't yet touch on severe water shortage.
That was one of the big complaints with the previous emergency plan too. It had it on the contents as a water plan, but there was none to be found.
I know.
And we've had discussions with Vancouver Coastal Health and last term and everything, and it's just been something that's been hard to wrestle. There's so many different aspects of how do you deal with no water, and nobody's got sort of the silver bullet to solve the problem.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I really want professional input on, and that's you and I think, is the current protocol is to keep the network charged until it runs out. Not to shut off the tanks when we reach a certain level of inflow to reserve them for fire flow. Why? Because if you were to open up the network again to charge the hydrants, you're talking about massive water hammer that might damage the network anyway. And somebody is not going to understand, and the taps are going to start working again, and they're going to start drinking water that may have been in a tank for a week.
you're also gonna lose water.
And well, even though the tanks, in theory, we were told don't leak at all.
No, not through the tanks, through the system. There's gonna be leakage through on the private side, through joints, etc.
No, that was the point though. So to prevent the inevitable leakage, which would drain the thing even at zero usage,
Mm-hmm.
you may as well keep it charged. Because if we shut it off at the tanks, before it got into the network,
Right.
there'd be other problems when we switch it on again.
And so what you do is you lose the volume or the carrying capacity within the pipes, and the minute you turn the tanks back on, you're just filling that carrying capacity.
We did that calculation because it's fairly well understood how many pipes of each size we have. I seem to remember the capacity of the pipe network was 700,000 US gallons, I think. In other words, more than the storage capacity of the tanks. It's floating around in an email somewhere. The calculation is pretty simple to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I will remember to send you the spreadsheet. In other words, there is no benefit to shutting off the network and keeping the tanks charged.
Yeah.
Now, that does mean that when we're truly out of water, we have no fire flow. We have no
How-
firefighting capacity.
Yeah, I mean, if you isolate the tanks, and if you have a supply line from the tank, you can draw into a tanker at that point. So you don't need to charge the system, but you can pull water out.
So the
of
current protocol is not to do that, except for the 2 tanks that have been dedicated for fire reserve. That's the Ocean View tank and the one at Brunswick. That leaks badly, as you know, but is continually topped up through a 2-inch polyethylene line. So anyway, that was just one aspect that was, to my mind, that was, you know, we are planning to use the network until it's empty. And then we have the big problem is that unless we can keep the network fully charged, then we have to shut it off because we won't be able to hyperchlorinate.
No.
So when we do go down, we go down hard for a long time. So that was that. So, okay, so
We're working on it.
And I suggest you go to 76 and 94 because they could be struck.
what about 70?
That would work too.
Okay, so that one's quick. So this was just a discussion I had with the previous public works manager based on a lot of questions we had every time we did something, like took down the roof on the highway tank, coned off the leaking thing. Just put a sign to say what's going on. When's it going to be complete? What does it cost? Who's funding it? You know, just it's communication.
Yeah, it's standard for our capital projects, and it's standard for West Van capital projects, and it will be something that we can talk about for our projects.
Well, I mean,
Makes
it seems
sense.
like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
Please, can we do it?
Yeah.
There was a lot of reasons why it couldn't be done before, but you know, for the cost of a sign and the thought put into producing it,
Yeah.
it's just a good thing. You were going to say?
I think, Peter, do we need a resolution? That's actually one of the most important features in the communication. People don't read what they get handed. They don't read the e-thing, but they drive by and it says there's a story, or they walk by, and it's a lot less
It's
stuff.
a great communications piece.
It's easy to do.
Okay. No resolution. It's going to happen. Good. Thank
Yeah.
you.
It's just an operational thing that
Mhm.
should
Thank
happen.
you.
Yeah, I mean, that should be standard procedure, I think. Okay, fire services review, that's ongoing. You can take that off, Peter.
Yeah, that should be
Good. Learn to Burn campaign. I'm not going to discuss this one right now because it's not timely. I did just send a note to Metro asking them when our clean air report, our air quality sampling report is coming so that we can understand what we're dealing with. It's been suggested in many wood burning communities that a regular, meaning every 5-year type of time frame, Learn to Burn campaign gets run, just so that people understand. There's a lot of myth around two things in our kind of community: burning wood and septic systems. And sometimes somebody may read and allow themselves to dispel them. So I'd like to leave that one on right now, but I don't think we need any more discussion, okay? Everybody good? I get the sense I'm talking too much, but this is because my name's next to all of them. Can we place the official notice board, that's the one that's outside the main hall, on a similar looking notice board to the ones on the corners in this triangle in the walkway here? Spotlit and rain sheltered. Why? Because that's a very good village notice board location. Nobody's going to come up on the steps and look at the official notice board.
Well, that's the. I know what you're saying. That it's front and center. Anybody going to the community center would walk past it and see, oh, there's a council meeting, or oh, there's a committee meeting, or whatever.
You know, it's where the big poster goes as well. It's the sort of the prime. It's the official notice board, not the community notice board.
That you're talking about, like the ones up in the corner.
Yeah.
Those are huge.
Well, not quite that size, but you know, largish. I don't want it to destroy the view out of the windows, obviously, so it has to be thought through. The answer, the item is, can we? And the answer may be no. But I'd like it to be considered, if council thinks it's a good idea. If the current notice board location's fine with everybody, that's the one outside the front door, by the way, in case anybody's remembering.
Well, I think that as a communications piece, I think it's critical that everybody understands what's going on in the village and what and where, and so they need to know where they can look and where they can see. Actually, so they need to know that if they can see it from their cars, from their vehicles quite easily, I think it's probably a good idea.
I'm with you on this. I'm thinking maybe we should hold this for a budget and get something a little more elaborate. With
Well, we have
lights.
budget for notice boards.
Well, maybe something bigger.
Well, I'm thinking this would replace the sandwich board. Because
Well,
let's face it, the sandwich board is not the most aesthetic
No,
device.
it's not, it's also
No.
not the most stable
It can-
thing.
well,
And it's not safe either, it's
Yeah.
too big and heavy.
And Jim can't read it.
So there's a electrical considerations. We'd probably want to have it lit up so people can actually.
Well,
see
I'm
it.
thinking we.
I'm thinking
Well,
solar,
That's right.
so it'll work
Yeah.
until about 11
I think
o'clock
it
at
would tie
night.
into
Good
the
enough.
other question that we were looking at, whether we could spotlight flags and stuff like that. There is some electrical out there, but we were gonna have somebody.
We need
look at-
to ensure that we can put it on ground fault, a proper
Yeah.
switch.
Yeah, so maybe we can tie those two things together and
That'd be great.
look at what this might look like and
But the,
stuff. So,
the idea of lighting for that is probably less expensive than going with the option of solar and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. I mean, over years of use, it probably would still be less
Yeah.
expensive.
yeah, well, the fact is electrical sitting right there. in
Right
the
Yeah,
dirt.
yeah, that's right.
Shouldn't
It's a
be-
matter of
I
adapting
would
to
think.
GFCI and doing that.
So the other thing we touched base on was the signs at Brunswick and Calvin Grove,
The notice boards.
the notice boards. We do have $1,000 left in that after the work done by staff to refurbish and repaint and sand and finish. So
What was the budget again?
2,000.
2,000 for notice boards this year.
We should come back with some ideas.
Yeah, can you? I mean, you get it, right? It's
Mhm.
You do that.
I remember years working for Ministry of Highways. That was always the winter projects in a time when you couldn't be outside doing this and doing that. They'd go in the shop and they'd make these signs and they put them all over the province. It was great. Because it cost, they had to pay the wages anyways to do the work and the bit of material cost. It worked out really, really well. So there's ways of doing it.
good. So let's leave that one there just as a reminder. But I mean, you know, it's who's going to argue with
Well,
communication?
well, how about it, the council disposition would be for staff to examine the options for design, location, lighting, etc.
Beautiful. Okay, if you want to do that,
Then
then
it
you can,
moves on to the resolution.
sure, then take it off. Yeah. Okay,
So,
AV Suite.
I'm ready for TV.
you're dressed for it, councillor.
Yeah.
I've been on TV lots.
I'm wondering, okay, well, we've got 3 left, so let's just knock this one. So I had, you know, I think several of us made a campaign promise about openness in council meetings, one of which might be to televise the meetings on some sort of feed, you know, Skype or local cable access. Peter makes a very good point that you may want to think about that. Do you actually want to do that? You know, it changes the whole dynamic of the meeting. There's a lot less waving of hands and, you know, there's a lot more formality in Lions Bay. Is that appropriate?
I think I would agree with that. Like, you want to think about that before you do it. You want to do it. You don't want to be. You're not hiding. You're covering anything. We have very open meetings here. We don't keep. We're not closed doors about anything. We are very open with things. So I don't know why we would want to spend the money or the time and put us. I don't want to. You got to be careful. I say this, but I don't want to put anybody in the spot. Like, it does bring a whole different element to what you're doing. And I mean, there's some really good stuff about it, but at the same time,
Yeah, it
you
can
gotta
be-
wonder if we really need it. That's all I'm saying.
It can turn into a bit of a circus
Yeah, it
sometimes,
can.
you know, like the Nymos had lots of issues.
Yeah, I know, we
yeah,
used to live there.
There's some other ones.
I mean, you know, all the metro meetings are webcast. It's not put on a local access channel. And quite
Yeah.
frankly, maybe it's just me, but I'm never really conscious of it. I don't think it stops people.
Yeah, but you're talking, you're in a meeting where you're many participants here. We're talking about a few in a room. So we're all gonna be aware of it, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just a cost thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it.
oh well,
den-
there would be no cost. I would get
Okay,
somebody to
I mean,
sponsor
it
it.
denotes a level of heightened civility and care. I mean, that's a given. So, I mean, to me, I'm either way on this one.
May also require the consent of staff. That's an issue that we would have to look into.
Well,
and
other councils manage it fine.
consider.
So
Yeah,
it's more a case of making it easier to see council meetings rather than having to come down. You can just turn it on your. So now I did actually happen to meet with Shaw during the week. I'm looking where he's sitting because she sat there, and they can't do it. Is the long and the short of it.
Hmm.
It's not something they would do. So, you know, it may. I certainly don't think we want to spend too much money on this. Although I would propose we get a television for back here rather than using the projector in future, so that we can just Bluetooth presentations in there, because you know it messes with the table and stuff. But that's, you know, a suitable television is $800 at Costco, but that's next year's budget item. I'm prepared to drop
hook
this
the
one.
village up with TELUS and give
Yeah,
a free 50-inch
I-
TV for the
It's a good
wall.
idea.
That was my thing.
Carl, it's your
Sponsored
issue.
by TELUS.
We did.
Carl, why don't you drop the issue and I'll put the $800 the TV thing for the amended budget for September.
Fine. Okay, I'm good with taking that off. Everybody. So no televising, not even webcasting, not even Skyping. I mean, putting a webcam on the end of a laptop is a pretty simple thing. How many people would dial in?
Well, the way I figure, if a guy with one hip can come in here and make it to meetings, the general public.
Well, he has to. He doesn't have a choice. That's different.
Guy with half a hip, half a leg.
I'm prepared to go on, power through the last two.
Yeah, let's leave it. Okay, good. So that one can come off, Peter. The answer is no, we do not want to televise council meeting. Search for minutes. Please report on what's involved in making all council proceedings, agendas and minutes searchable on the website. The wrinkle here being, of course, that our final presentation on the website is an optical scan to include signatures. We've talked about this.
Yeah, so it's a factor that it's included in my discussions with web designers.
Yeah,
right now,
yeah.
So,
So I don't need to tell you that, Google, for example, has a project where they scan a lot of old library books, and they're searchable. They use optical character recognition. We've discussed this.
The technology's out there now, almost everything. There's a lot of stuff that we use in the office is PDF searchable and friendly, and we can take any document and put it in there, and it comes out with index with everything, where it is, what it is, and it's getting simpler and simpler and simpler. All the software nowadays is starting to go that way.
Yeah, well, we're going to have a slight discussion about website update next, but it seems to me that's one of the major aspects. Right now, I cannot find prime materials. I can't find it. Sack of paper, in my house, 3 feet high. Even if I could find the minutes I was looking for, I wouldn't be able to find the material. It's got to be searchable. I don't know how people did it in pre-search days. I guess they didn't. Okay, so would it be fair to say, Peter, that that's in hand?
it's on my
Okay, good. Then it
radar.
can come out. And finally, procedure bylaw should be amended to allow delegations to present to council about matters not on the agenda. This was just a procedural thing. The procedures bylaw currently states that a delegation has to be about something on the agenda, which is crazy. Because that
So-
means you can never get any new topics.
Yeah, and so I think we just put it shall be done, so it can
Okay,
come
good.
off.
Okay,
It's just a question of when.
good. Well, in one fell swoop, we knocked everything off the requests except one, which is going to be for next year. I think that's to be commended. And you thought this was a long list.
I've taken 3 sessions for our strategy session to prioritize them.
Fantastic. See, wasn't that hard?
Leadership.
Thank you.
Leadership. There we are.
Well, hardly. Okay, thank you, colleagues. That's good.
It's
That's
just
not
all
to
the
say.
willingness to get it
I actually
resolved.
will admit that I have 6 more that I haven't formulated, but they're all very simple, very obvious, should be done. I'll just send them in to Peter to add to the list next time around. Okay, good. We'll move on. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Website update, Ron.
Thank you. And this is a quiz for Carl and for Peter. The website presentation was done last meeting, and it's still a work in progress. I'm wondering what the rollout time might be, because I forget from last time, and I'm not looking for a definitive time. And the second piece, should we advise the residents that this is coming down the path?
Yeah, I think that we can probably have a fuller discussion in the strat planning, but that I can tell you that I'm presently looking at 2 options. Previously I was looking at 1. I'm looking now at 2, and both are feasible. I'm going back and forth and asking some questions, getting further information, and getting close to the point where a decision can be made. Beyond that, I don't really want to get into the details of it, but
It's good enough for me.
Yeah, if it's ongoing and
it's ongoing, and I think that we would be able to make an announcement once that decision has been made and the details worked out, so that
Good.
Well,
people understand that.
without committing, what sort of time frame are we talking?
So timelines. The first one was kind of. It was a sort of a September rollout time frame, but with the potential that there might be some windows coming up sooner to work on it, if the guys, schedule permitted. So the second one, it would be, we're looking at about 15 weeks in total, so we'd be, again, into September, somewhere around there.
Okay, good. Well, that's
early
great.
October.
Because I'll just direct our attention to, I guess that's our mission statement. The top one is effective communications. So all the stuff about project signage, websites, this actually speaks to something that we've identified as being a priority to this council as far as this village is concerned. So I'm always conscious that communication can be so lacking, and then rumor and supposition and ill will just build so quickly. So this tank out here, for example, I'd love to be able to say what we're going to do on it. Now, we have the vehicle for that. It's the Friday email, I guess. In fact, I'd like to know what's going to happen to that tank out there, but that's not on the agenda for today.
So before we move on, Sean has reminded me that we didn't pass a resolution dealing with the IRRs.
Yeah.
So the recommended wording is there. We'll fill in the actual numbers.
Yep.
But that staff deal with the following items accordingly from the IRR sheet, and then we'll
As discussed.
list them
Yeah.
as discussed.
Okay, can I have a motion to that effect? Thanks, and a second. No further discussion necessary, I don't think, correct? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Peter.
So, no resolution necessary on the website update, it's just ongoing, being handled satisfactorily? Yep.
Yeah, just,
Good.
you could say verbal update received. or
Yeah,
whatever.
okay. Verbal update received, Shauna. Okay, we'll move on to reports. Staff, Public Works Manager? Nai, go for it.
Which one first?
Whatever you feel, but on the agenda is the one on the water meters.
Essentially, staff is directed to provide costs on the feasibility and the installation of water meters at the marina and the school. The costs are identified as $35,000 for the marina and $13,000 for the school, primarily due to the size of the meters and the services to be installed.
Okay. There it is. So, what's your recommendation? Resulting for given. The idea here was to start using this as a basis to understand where our water went. There is a distinct feeling in the village that the school and the marina uses a lot of water. Every time the water shortage discussion comes up, the first clamour that comes out of the village is
Boat washing.
What's that?
Boat washing.
Yeah, I mean it's the marina. They use so much.
So it's important to note that at the end of the report, there's a note. The marina has a dedicated water system for washing their boats. They currently have installed a pump that draws water off Rundle Creek to wash their boats and for other non-potable uses.
Yeah.
So if you would want to know my recommendation, I honestly can't see the bang in the buck here.
And it's not really representative. Well, we're only interested in what happens to our treated water. It is potentially part of a larger zone metering project.
Agreed. Yeah. When we let that and when we move forward with that project.
Maybe include this.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we know. It's more than I would have. No, it's probably about what I would have thought, I suppose. How it would be implemented and paid for, I don't know. But do we think it's important enough to know what their usage is there, given that our water use is certainly under control, our leakage seems to be approaching manageable territory. I know that our water is under control. Why? Because when we're in conservation periods, as we were last summer, we were about at the assumed metro per capita consumption. We were consuming about 500 litres per person per day, which is correct. That's about right. Previously, I don't need to remind you that we were consuming 2,500 litres per person per day. Outrageous amounts of water. A lot of that was leakage, but it was still consumption. So the imperative has almost gone away to know where our water is going, because overall it's being managed adequately now. Okay, good. So
But that being said, that's now. And we've been talking, we've been kicking around this for a good while now about installation of water meters everywhere in the village, on residences, businesses, everything. So, to me, the first place you'd look at is the businesses in the village, all of them. You know, if there, whatever there is, you know, we've got the marina, you know, the school, the store, and that, and I'm not sure what else, you know, so, and then if we're gonna do that, then we would have to go there first and then go, so, it's not out the window right now, it might not be valuable at this point in time, but it may be next year or the year after, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, my selfish interest is to understand what our institutional usage is for its future sewer load. Now, there's no sewer load coming out of the marina. You know, there's one public toilet and a basin, but there's potentially a large load coming out of the school, and I'd like, at some point, you know, to begin to understand what that is. I have no understanding of how we would model that other than by measuring the water usage. Obviously not for the irrigation of the field, but that's a separate line. You know, we would install a separate metering system. Okay, so the recommendation here is to receive the report. I think that's good enough for now. So can I have a motion to that effect? And a second, any further discussion? All in favor of receipt of the report and opposed, that carries. Thanks, Nye, that's good. Okay, you're running the show, go for it.
Second is the garbage at Lions Bay Beach Park. Unfortunately, due to the weather over the last weekend, we don't believe the park had high use, so there's not evidence of a garbage issue. The containers are half full. The food waste containers that were put out there are only half full. So
They were used,
they were used, correct.
and that would have
Yeah.
previously gone into the main garbage.
Into the main garbage. So basically what we've got here is a list of containers that we can purchase if we want to add additional garbage. I have talked to our current supplier or waste management service, and the costs with identified with additional service are below. So collection of the 2 test containers, the food waste containers we have, would be $58 a month. The adding of waste bins, if we choose to add additional waste bins to be picked up on a Saturday, would be $305, not including the cost of the container itself, which is the first section.
Sorry, so Smith Wright, our current contractor, would charge us an extra $300 a month to pick up once a weekend
Yes.
or twice a weekend
Once a weekend
on a
They changed,
Sunday
for a
morning.
monthly basis
They
over the
changed.
course of the summer.
they changed the date from Friday to Saturday, so they scoop everything on the same day. It's not the part I read on this.
No, well,
Or is it a
there's 2
two-part?
options.
Okay.
We can, we have 17 public bins in the village that are collected on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
We can, for no additional charge, change that collection for those 17 bins to a Saturday at no extra charge. Again, the truck that's used to collect those bins is different than the residential truck. So they can either come out on Friday like they normally do or come out on Saturday. If we choose to have them come out on Friday, as per the norm, and want to add Saturday at Lions Bay Beach Park only, it would be $305.
But they pick up everything. Everything's all gone. Gone.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, well, I
So-
mean, Saturday is not as good a day as Sunday at sort of lunchtime.
I actually think we should double up on this myself. Saturday and Sunday on a hot weekend. It starts on Thursday, goes Friday.
I don't think that was on offer though, because Sunday's a difficult day, right? You're going to tell us
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
because of,
Yeah.
of overtime. And,
Overtime and union considerations, yeah. Sunday's not on the table.
but I think even Saturday is good for an
Yeah,
extra $300
so-
a month for 4 months a year.
Well,
So
it's
you
less
could-
than that.
so you
For
could
this year,
choose
it's
to
July,
do-
August, and half of September.
Yeah.
So it's grand.
Yeah,
We have-
so you could choose to do the additional on Saturday, or staff could check the park on a Friday. If the bins are overflowing, pick those up, and then have Smith Wright come in on a Saturday at no cost.
Do we have anything down at Kelvin Grove? No.
Just a
Yeah,
small one.
there is a trash can there.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Even when it's overflowing, it's not really overflowing, not like the other one, it's
Yeah.
like a car on a weekend.
And what about Brunswick?
Well, no, because there's no
anybody
No,
cares.
public access there.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just asking,
Yeah.
the next question is, should we be thinking about putting one down there? I mean, we know we have garbage issues down there. We know we have people using the beach that shouldn't be there, so
No,
we ignore it?
Now, do we know when on Saturday they're gonna come?
No, we do not.
So if we could make it in a PM would be desired.
Mm-hmm.
So then, my recommendation would be we go with the 305 option and move to Saturday. That way we get staff covering Friday, which might be a holiday.
Now, hang on a sec. Smithright does Friday. They do the 17 cans on a Friday, right?
Yeah, so
They're
what,
gonna move it
So, but then so at no
that's
cost.
no cost.
at no cost, and staff will look on Friday, so
Yeah.
we're doubling up.
And what would we find on Friday normally? Very full cans or not so full cans?
I'm not aware.
Because they would have
I
been
don't know.
gathering since the last pickup, since
Correct.
the last Friday,
Yeah.
or,
we
and
would
now the last
empty-
Saturday.
We would empty whatever's in them and make sure they were empty for the weekend. And then Saturday, hopefully in the afternoon, Smithright would come in and do their pickup.
Given the options, it's the
Seems like a
maximum.
no-brainer, right?
It's the maximum we
It
can
does,
do here,
yeah.
and it's small cost of doing business.
Just to clarify, so that is not the 305. That does not. We don't need to pay the 305 if that's what we choose to do.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
option C.
Even better.
Yeah.
But do we want to do option A as well? Or not?
Well, otherwise we have to do it, right?
Yeah.
And move it along. So yeah, I think we do. And that is, of course, 12 months a year.
Well, no, I think this is
Well,
just
we
the
can.
summer months, isn't
They're
it?
summer months. They're temporary cans. We can.
Oh, they are
remove
temporary
them.
cans?
Yeah.
Oh, we can take
yeah,
them away.
We can take them away.
Yeah, before buying, the expensive cans, the idea here was to see how things go with,
Yeah.
alternate use and testing out.
I
We
agree
can get
with
people to use them, and then, if it all works out, then maybe we buy proper cans for next summer.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had some very iffy summer weekends. In
Mhm.
fact, that we haven't had any beach weather for the last 2 weeks. So the fact that the food can is half full anyway, that tells me,
This is only the second day of summer, Carl.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I think, Peter, you're right. I think we're maxing out off nice opportunity here, which is good. It's low, no cost. I don't think we should drop the G for the bins yet, because we don't know what we don't know. And if
Or
and-
would you be ready to say we need bin, whatever?
No, I don't believe we do right now.
Do we have recycling bins down there at the moment? I can't remember.
There is one recycle bin by the gazebo,
Yeah.
and I believe that's it.
And have they? To be honest, I haven't been down to the beach this year because I go to the marina.
I was there on Sunday, but there's nobody there.
Is it? Is that bin now out? Because previously it was blocking half the pathway
It's
because
away.
it's been moved properly.
moved, yeah, to the backside of the gazebo, closer to the boat rack, to the kayak rack.
Let the record reflect that Building Inspector Dave Butler approached the table.
In his finest tennis gear.
I couldn't get hold of Morgan. I went to his house.
You want to recess for a minute, Peter? We can recess. Motion to recess.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Minutes.
Second, all in favour, opposed, carried. Meeting recessed.
Okay, bring out the beer.
Wait till we stop the recorder, will you?
Okay, 9 o'clock. Run.
Is that your aim?
Yes.
Okay, let's see what we can do about that. Okay, we've come out of recess. The meeting resumes at 7:57. So we were completing the report from Public Works Manager Nai Jafar.
So essentially, option C is no cost. We move the collection of the 17 public bins from Friday to Saturday, and staff will check the bins on Friday.
And no new bins at this stage.
Correct.
The bins throughout the village or just the beach?
Um,
I'm only thinking of the bus being the next big one, I guess.
yeah, we can check that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nai. So I'll make the motion to.
Sorry, just for my own edification, because maybe I missed it. Was there anything to be done with option A? Or no?
Oh, There was, wasn't it?
Yeah, option A, so we would add that as well. So the collection of the food waste bins on a weekly basis at the normal food waste collection day is the $58 a month, and then C, so both A and C.
Fine. Okay, so I'll move that we receive the report for information purposes and direct staff to implement options A and C during the summer months, removing the food waste containers when appropriate. Is that good enough for you now? So can I have a second on that one? And any further discussion? Okay, all in favour of that motion? Thanks. And opposed? It carries. Great stuff. Thanks, Nye. That's good. That's progress. That's good, hey? I mean, it gets us everything we want, more or less.
Yeah, more.
Yeah.
More.
Good solution.
Good. Okay. So we're done on staff reports. Is that correct, Peter? Nothing from you?
No, that's it.
Nothing from the mayor, council, Ron?
I attended the econ meeting. Red card up, red card down. Everything's in good shape. The Arts Council, the Library Historical Society have been notified. I'm their liaison. The Arts Council's assisted Nye through the public art with the washroom color and the floor stuff. They did their merchandising event at the hall this weekend, which looked successful to me in a kind of a dismal day. I was lobbied that they will come forward with a plan if some space opens up in the complex. The library is meeting tonight and should have drafted out their exit plan for us and their thoughts. Nothing on Historical Society. The interim has been handed off. Where that goes, well, that's it. Tree Committee meets on Friday, and I think the Tree Committee members are ready to spend the 3 or 4 hours to come up with the final on that one. And that would be all for me.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Thanks for taking that on, and thanks for that report. Fred?
From the IC, I should report out our last meeting, due to the time commitments of the IC regular recorder, draft minutes of our last meeting aren't yet available. So I talked with them, our recorder, and we merged our notes, and I can just read off some of our notes just for information. First one, ACOM, Graham Walker is our new contact, as the previous one is on leave. Next draft to come before the next IC meeting. Public Works Manager, I don't know what I wrote there. Sorry about that.
Well, we can't see it, so we don't know how bad it is.
Keep fumbling, you're doing a great job.
I think you were going to forward the draft to us before the last meeting, if I can translate my
Correct, yes.
ciphering. Thank
Yes. So we have time to review.
you. Right.
Yes.
That works better. And the Public Works Manager is going to forward the latest water test results when he receives them. At the point, we're waiting for an answer from Prius on how they propose their infiltration gallery design would be cleaned back flushed when it gets plugged with silt and debris. On this, the IC recommends that any work on it be put on hold until that issue is addressed and resolved. Feel free to jump in if you have any comments. IC recommends that the Public Works Manager is to proceed with whatever he needs to do to procure and implement the FlowWorks data monitoring software he described to us. 2 times 150 license fees plus 2 times 25 a month subscription fees plus 1,000 to have the software algorithm written so it interfaces with our SCADA system. And there was a discussion of level transducers to gain more accurate stream flow data to better assess our water capacity. We also discussed possibilities around strategic water supply study proposal with federal funding. That need to be fleshed out a little more. It seems a little premature. And that's about all we've got ready right now.
Okay, good. So there were 2 recommendations in there that we may as well deal with now. So Fred, will you make a motion on the first of those?
The IC recommend Public Works Manager proceed one?
Yeah.
Okay. I can hand that to the recorder if you just want.
Yeah, sure, so, yeah.
Did you want, are you putting it forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, so just so that everyone knows what they're voting on.
I think it's about the third from the bottom.
Yeah, I know there was one before that. That the work on the infiltration gallery, or whatever we call it, gets put on hold. Do you need a resolution for that?
No,
night?
it's already done.
Yeah, okay, so that's just administrative? Fine, good. Okay, so there's only one then. So I'll move on Fred's behalf that the Public Works Manager is to proceed with whatever it needs to do to procure and implement the Flowworks data monitoring software described to us, including 2 times $150 license fees, 2 times $25 a month subscription fees, plus $1,000 in programming. That's the motion. So it's an ex-budget item, but it comes out of operational funds. So we don't really even need to resolve this, do we? Peter? Couldn't hurt, right?
It's fine if it's going to come out of operational. I was going to ask where is it going to be funded from, but
It's operations.
so
Yeah, well, I mean, you're already facing a completely unbudgeted SCADA issue to do with the fact that the current SCADA system has been fried by lightning. Are we doing an insurance claim on that, by the way?
I'm not sure if we're able to,
Yeah. Well,
given the age of the SCADA system.
hey, the lightning was recent.
And the unit that was fried is from 2008.
Well, that means it's really valuable.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can worry about the insurance. So it's really just, well, you tell me, Peter. Does council need to authorize a spend? It's a capital
CFO has
spend.
already authorized me to proceed.
Fine, so you don't need a resolution.
No.
Okay, no resolution required. So we don't need a recommendation. So
Okay.
this just goes as an on-table report.
Well, it wasn't verbal, but. I think
Okay,
it's-
verbal even better. So then we don't have to
Okay.
record it. Okay, so
Destroy the evidence.
Chair of the IC provided verbal update.
Don't know anything about it.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Okay, good. I'll just tell you, I may as well tell you, so while Ron was having fun at the ECOM meeting, I was having fun at the Regional Prosperity Roundtable, which is a move afoot to put in place some sort of regional prosperity initiative in Metro Vancouver. I spoke on Lions Bay's behalf, pointing out that the region includes Squamish, Pemberton, Gibsons, and so on and so forth, and to make sure that we don't try and focus just on the big city. And the point was actually very well received and seconded and thirded and fourth by quite a few people around the table, given the fact, as you know, I gave them the example, the Science to Whistler started Hope. So, you know, that tells you where the region's economy is coming from. That was that. I told you about the meeting we had with Shaw, with a view to getting sponsorship of an AV suite, whether it's a TV just for a monitor, WiMAX in the village. You know, they all have these government layers and people. I don't really know how much they do ultimately, but it's good to know that, you know, that's available and out there. There may be a sponsor opportunity and so on and so forth. Nothing really. I had meetings every day last week. Peter and I went for a walk in the woods to look at wildfire, to look at stuff around the Centennial Trail, to look at opportunities up there. It was quite fun. Peter didn't like the leaning tree either. Many of them. Okay, so that's enough of that. Anything else? Council committees? There was to be a policy and bylaw review committee meeting last night, but at the last minute, quorum was not available, so we cancelled the meeting and postponed it to the 27th.
Who's on that committee?
Me and Ian Mackey. So it only takes one person not to be available to break quorum.
Okay.
So why weren't you there?
I would,
Is that something you want to expand? In a bigger strategy?
Potentially, yeah.
In a bigger
Yeah.
strategy? Should we want to take that to Wednesday, Thursday?
yeah. There's more work to do than there are days in the year there, and you know, anybody who's prepared to take it on. I mean, Peter seems to be able to conjure up a bylaw at the drop of a hat.
well,
Well,
that's
he's
not-
already maxed out, we don't.
Well, that's my point. But at least he can provide guidance.
Yeah, and I would expect to attend and provide administrative support.
Yeah, I mean, Peter is as much a member of the committee, but, you know, officially speaking, he's not a quorum member. Okay, so we'll move on to the public safety report on page 25. It was interesting to me on this report that for the first time ever, as far as I recall, there were more incidents in the village than incidents on the highway. And lots of medicals. I mean, ultimately, I'd like to see a trend on that, but I suspect that we're going to be seeing more and more medicals in the village as the demographic goes there. Does anybody know about the structure fire on Bayview? Was that anything? We don't know anything about it? Serious? Not serious?
Don't know.
Okay.
Andrew was going to try and get here for this meeting tonight, but his work at the airport took him too long, and he said he wasn't going to make it.
19 members. The last number I recall, which was about 3 months ago, was 32 members. I know it's a fairly dynamic number, but
Yeah, Andrew did say they had a lot of hirings in bigger cities. I think that's the
yeah, our guys got recruited away. Yeah, I know of at least 3. Okay, well, you know, we need to be very sure we're not just the sucker training ground for the big departments, but you know, the chief is running that, so that's good for now. Okay, so we'll move on, right?
Motion to receive? Or?
Yes, motion to receive the Lions Bay Fire Rescue monthly report. Thanks, and a second. Any further discussion? All in favour of receipt and opposed? That carries. So resolutions. First is resolution to advertise the annual report. We need this, Peter?
I recommend that you do it, yeah, for a number of reasons. You know, part of it entails council making a determination that publication on the village website of the notice, on the village website and in the village update, distributed 3 times, as it is a reasonable equivalent to notice being provided in a newspaper publication, if that were practicable. We don't have a newspaper in Lions Bay, so you as council are making this determination that this is a reasonable equivalent. So it's better to have that official than to, after the fact, justify that you actually had this discussion. If you're going to have the discussion, you might as well pass a resolution.
Okay, this is a requirement of the community charter to advertise 3 times and
It's at the
public notice
if
3
you're in a
times.
newspaper, it'll be twice, but we have 3 opportunities.
Okay, so we'll just do it
to
3
be
times,
equal,
got it.
So I thought that made sense.
Okay, I'm not going to read the entire recommendation, but I'll make a motion for the recommendation as it stands. Can I have a second on that? And any further discussion in terms of timing, content of the annual report, anything like that?
I think the magic on the content is that we're in well before the 29th, though, isn't it, Peter? So-
Yeah, we want to be ready to actually print it and have it available at front desk on the
So I know
29th.
you're in process, I think.
Yeah, to a certain extent.
I'm
yeah.
in with no queries,
Yeah.
but I'd appreciate a review.
I certainly would like to see a draft sooner rather than later.
Mhm.
You've had it for 10 days.
Well,
No, of the
Oh, the
report,
biggie one. Yeah,
the
yeah, all
whole
of us.
document. Yeah.
All of us, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just to, I mean, we're going to have to, at least I'm going to have to pull in my horns to some of my hopes for the document. For example, I wanted to publish a calendar of what our official calendar was last year. I just don't have time to do that, I'm afraid.
What's the hard date, Peter, to compile? I mean, it's got to be in to you guys to pull it in.
Yeah, the 29th is that a Thursday?
It's
Well, today's the
Wednesday.
24th, 5 days.
It's a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So, yeah, so the Friday,
First?
no,
Oh, this Friday,
yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's
you know,
the 27th. Okay.
there's not much time.
So I guess the drop dead on having things in that, and preferably a first draft by Friday, and then finals by Monday, so we can be compiling it all.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Yeah, at the very least, I'd like to see some fairly substantive input from the departments, fire, you know, a summation of the annual calls, maybe trends, you know, all the stuff that we talked about. I sent in some fairly comprehensive notes on what I would like to see. This thing is the top annual record of the proceedings of Lions Bay. It's the document of record. Ultimately, I'd like it to be the place where you go and look up your financials, what happened in Lions Bay, what did we accomplish, what didn't we accomplish. In fact, that's what it's supposed to be. Okay, so there's a motion and seconded motion on the table. Any further discussion? So all in favor of the motion and opposed, that carries. Okay, good. So the motion will be comprised of 9A in its entirety. John? Okay, good. Okay, we'll move to 9B, a resolution on for those who serve the municipality and residents of Lions Bay. This was an on-table item that was sent out yesterday or today, right, Peter? Do you care to give us any background as to the need, impetus, incentive?
I think that, you know, as we've discussed at the council table and as council has vocalized on numerous occasions in different settings, sometimes in closed, because that's just the kind of discussion we were having, that council values and appreciates and supports all the different departments and people who serve the municipality and by extension the residents of the community. I think that sometimes that message doesn't get trumpeted enough, and that sometimes the people who are performing all these great services for the community don't necessarily feel that you know, they need to hear it from council, basically. So that is part of it. The other part of it is that you know, as the leadership of the corporation of the municipality of Lions Bay, I think we all need to strive to achieve excellence, and that there's things that we can all do better. I know I can try to do better, and I think that a lot of that involves communicating better with each other as managers, with each other as you know, with me with you, and you with the community, and all of us in our various roles and responsibilities, to meet and respect and understand each other's roles and responsibilities, and to try and work better as a team. And I thought that it was something that needed to be said at this point in time. There's been some turmoil in the community with respect to fire department and other things, so I thought it was a timely resolution that captures some of the things that council has said, but perhaps needs to be explicitly said to everyone involved.
Okay, well, I don't think anybody's going to argue with the sentiment there. Jim, I know you had a few comments that you sent around.
I sort of shot from the hip what I was thinking when I read these things. Sometimes I pick them up in my email and I go for it. I read it and I think, oh shit, and I go and I make a phone call, send out an email, and it got resolved. Peter and I resolved it.
Okay, good.
Well, what am I going to say? That worked the best.
Oh, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
You can write that down. Put it in quotes though. Yeah, I mean, you know, I could tweak the wording of this thing till the cows came home, but I think it's the sentiment that's important. Would it be more valuable to do it now, or to tweak it to within an inch of its life? Because I don't, as I said, I think the sentiment's fairly clear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's. Yeah.
I suggest we go with as is. I talked to Sean. I think one of the things that we've done is we are all busy, staff in particular, and you, your worship, more than most. Volunteer week comes and goes, and we don't recognize it very well. I talked to Sean and I would ask to see, I'll confirm that we actually find out when Volunteer Week is in 2017, and that 2 months before that date, Shauna brings it forward to council. Along with this item, we retweak it and plan something that really honors our volunteers.
Okay, excellent point. Yeah, that we had,
Do a threefer.
yeah, we had far too little notice on it this year, and so in the end we bailed. Okay.
Well, I think the point Ron's making is a good one, because when I read this, it just sort of came out like out of the blue. Like, I know there's always issues, some people don't feel valued and others do, but there doesn't seem to be a context for it in the public's mind. Like, we know the context of what's going on in the village, so it makes sense.
Yeah, that's,
So, but it just struck me as odd, just to produce this. For what reason? I mean, well, to the point of the settlements, I get it. I mean, it's not like it's devoid, but usually there's sort of something precipitates sort of a proclamation like this.
yeah, and this is not actually a proclamation, this
No.
is a resolution. I mean, to my mind, a proclamation would be better, but, you know, my comment was, that I sent around this afternoon, was could we make it a little more meaty? You know, by actually jazzing it up and putting it on the notice board or something, to, you know, to actually show we mean it, that it's not just something that's going to get buried in the minutes and never found again by anybody, let alone the public. I mean, I can quite see, maybe not a hand-lettered proclamation like that one, but something that actually puts teeth in it. Peter?
Yeah,
I mean, if this is a good idea to do now for good administrative, staff morale, volunteer morale reasons, yes, absolutely. But I'd like to do more than this.
well, my suggestion would be then that you pass this and work on something that is meatier and that stands as something you would stick in a frame and put on the wall. This doesn't have to be the end of it, but this is perhaps a good start. And I think that I take Councillor Bain's comments and recognize them. I think that together with the next resolution, perhaps, people will perhaps put it in context. And yeah, I mean, it's one can struggle with the wording of something like this for a long time, and I think it's a start, and perhaps it can be improved upon. But I think the timeliness of it perhaps is good for now.
Okay.
Where my comment came from initially was that I found the final statement to be a little bit different than the rest of it, and I didn't think it was a clear message. Like, when you do something like this, the last line is what people remember, and it's the clear message that you want to have, and that's why I was having trouble with it. And then after we talked, I sort of thought, well, maybe I'm overreacting, and you know. But now that I listen to everybody around the table, I think maybe that it's the clarity of that final paragraph that is really the important piece. And if it's going to be a resolution, it should be clear. That was my only comment in the email. That's really what it was. So maybe my initial reaction wasn't that I thought it was, but
Well, no, I agree. I mean, I don't want to rush this unless you tell me it's a timely issue. And I think that is what you're telling us. Will these two items taken together meet the needs that you're seeking to achieve here?
I think it goes towards meeting those needs, but I don't think there's any silver bullet when it comes to addressing all of our issues.
Well, we're always going to have issues, whether they be procedural, personnel, we're always going to have issues. Will a proclamation or resolution solve those? No, but it will indicate intention.
this actually is a step in the right direction. Okay, and I think maybe that's what you're looking for. And if it
I think
is,
that's right.
yeah, from that point of view, I was just looking for the document that's going to,
Yeah,
you know, and this may not be it.
yeah, and I
But-
think that, you know, this is something that
Yeah.
I've tried to sort of take what I understood to be sentiments that council has expressed in other contexts.
Oh, we all support this.
And,
It's not.
and put it, yeah, no, I get that, and put it down on something. I just thought that the timeliness of it for now, it's a step in the right direction, but that I totally hear what you're saying in terms of creating something that is perhaps a meatier piece and is fleshed out a bit more.
Well, if it's
Something that the council as a
It's going to be
whole
posted
can
somewhere.
work on, yeah.
It's going to be posted somewhere as something of pride.
That we can all sign, yeah,
that we-
yeah, in
then
colour
I think
on the new notice
It
board.
needs to be extremely clear, but for this actually will do, you know, this is the first cut, and it says, it mentions, the sentiment is there, and that's it.
We need to get the town crier out there to do it.
Yeah, that's right.
And quite candidly, Carl, I don't want you working on this with what we've got coming down the road in the next 10 days.
Oh, sure.
This is,
So let's
Although
just-
I mean, I think a proclamation is good. Brett,
I think the proclamation, I think we should recognize volunteers, we should do
Yep.
a
yeah.
holistic job to the date. And I've got it for strategy session.
I guess the part I'm kind of thinking about with, talking about the discussion around here is if this is step one, then step two, I guess, would be the application where the neediness would be identified. So rather than just have some good thoughts about everybody, how do we translate these good thoughts into action?
That's what I want to know.
Well, and that's going to take some time to
Well, we're down a man,
yeah.
and this would be Helen's
Yeah.
big charge here, so.
I know.
And to repeat with what I know is gonna happen for the rest of the week and what the administration's got on their plate.
Yeah.
It's just not top 5.
Fair enough. Okay, so my only other question on this first resolution is there actually a sufficient distinction between administrative staff and public works staff to have two separate paragraphs? Can we not just say professional staff or employees or
How about inside staff?
Inside staff and outside staff.
just staff? I mean, to my mind, well, everybody's got a job and they're doing different things. Why do we have two paragraphs here?
We actually have 4 paragraphs here.
No, but I mean, can those first two not be amalgamated?
I think-
Lions Bay Fire Rescue is separate because it's a volunteer department, yes.
I think that our residents see the administrative staff and the work staff as different.
Do they?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
they did. I think there's a significant difference there. I think you pretty much need to identify them.
Because the only reason I say that is because this is going to have to be read into the minutes because it's on table and I'm trying to reduce the load.
Okay. Pour you some water?
Right, pour him a glass of water.
Hold on. Okay, so I get the sense that we're all okay with a motion as is. Okay, so I'll make the motion, and it's here goes. I move to resolve as follows: that whereas Council of the Village of Lions Bay greatly values, appreciates, and supports all of the work and efforts of the administrative staff in serving the municipality and the residents of Lions Bay, and whereas Council greatly values, appreciates, and supports all of the work and efforts of the public works staff in serving the municipality and residents of Lions Bay, and whereas Council greatly values, appreciates, and supports all of the work and efforts of the Lions Bay Fire Rescue Department in serving the municipality and the residents of Lions Bay, and whereas Council greatly values, appreciates, and supports all of the work and efforts of the many volunteers in their respective organisations in serving the municipality and the residents of Lions Bay, now therefore be it resolved that the leadership and management group of the municipality, including Council, strive to achieve excellence as a team through communication and understanding of each other's roles, responsibilities, and challenges in serving the municipality and the residents of Lions Bay. Can I have a second? Thanks. Any further discussion? All in favour of the resolution as stated and opposed? That carries unanimously. And we'll move on to item 9C, which is a resolution. What is this, Peter? Do we resolve to make this statement?
Yeah. What I would suggest is...
The council receive and endorse the following joint statement from CAO De Jong and Fire Chief Oliver. So this is a statement that you and Andrew have worked on.
Yes.
You're both
Both in agreement on it?
good with it. So there's no real tweaking because this is your statement.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew would be here to speak to this, and we'll take it as stated that he'd be good with this.
Yes.
Okay, so I will make the motion and request a second, and then we'll call the question. There's no discussion because it is what it is. Okay, so I move that council receive and endorse the following joint statement from CAO De Jong and Fire Chief Oliver. The statement is titled Joint Statement from CAO and Fire Chief of Lions Bay, and reads: CAO Peter De Jong and Fire Chief Andrew Oliver both recognize that the Lions Bay Fire Rescue Department, LBFR, is an essential and highly valued service of the municipality. Like all volunteer fire departments, LBFR faces a number of challenges, some uniquely specific to Lions Bay. However, both CAO Zhang and Fire Chief Oliver are eager to work closely together to grow the department in terms of both membership and capacity to meet the challenges and better serve the residents of Lions Bay. They will be working on a number of initiatives to improve interdepartmental procedures and communications, to enhance mutual understanding and accountability, set clear training standards to support a mutually agreed upon level of service to be endorsed by Council, and work on a 5-year strategic plan for LBFR. Can I have a second for my motion? Thanks. Any discussion as to good, bad, or indifferent? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favour? And opposed? That carries unanimously. Thanks, Peter.
Okay.
Good stuff. That is progress. Well done. Okay, after that emotional section of the agenda, we'll move on to bylaws. First being the adoption of the Board of Variance bylaw number 502. There's only a motion and second, no discussion, correct? Well, we can discuss whether we want to do it or not,
Yeah.
in light of things. So can I have a motion for adoption of bylaw number 502 and a second? Seeing no second, now I see 2 seconds. So it's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Fred? I mean, bylaws, I want to be absolutely sure that we're all cool with them.
I had a note here as I read it, and I'm sorry for bringing this up this far, on page 5. I read 8.3BV, and there's, I don't know, maybe I'm just reading it wrong, but it just seemed kind of awkward about a geotechnical engineer's report with respect to drainage, topography, and other geotechnical considerations, if required by the board due to circumstances giving rise to potential geotechnical issues, semicolon, provided that the board may require surveys, plans, or other documents be provided and to be certified by the appropriate registered professional. Does that sound right?
That last part, provided that, applies to
The 5 points above.
all 5 points above.
For all 5?
Yeah.
5 points.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's
So-
a little, you have to read it carefully. I noticed that too.
I thought it went just to point V, and anyhow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it laid out like it is. Is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about adoption. I mean, we've done 3 readings on this, plus discussion leading up to those readings. So I will call the question. All in favour of adoption? And opposed? That carries. Good. And where's the bylaw? Here it is. This is second reading, Peter, is that correct?
First 3 readings.
First 3 readings. Okay, so that's pretty fast action. Tell us why this needs to happen. Because clearly we've been appointing bylaw officers since the beginning.
Yeah, so when I thought that we had a bylaw that authorized council to appoint bylaw officers. It's something that is required under the Act to be by bylaw. So really, most places will have a bylaw that authorizes you to appoint certain persons as bylaw officers, and to, if you wish, pre-designate certain classes of people to be bylaw officers. So you can pre-designate job positions. People who occupy the position of, say, building inspector or fire chief or whatever, shall be a bylaw enforcement officer without you having to actually appoint that person. Normally you'll have circumstances where both would exist. For instance, we just hired some bylaw officers and they need to be appointed. But you provide for that in the bylaw, that you can appoint persons to be bylaw officers, and you can do so by resolution, but you need to set everything up with a bylaw. So previously, there was bylaw 373, going way back, but it was set up to appoint bylaw officers to enforce by way of municipal ticket informations, which we went away from that system. We went to the bylaw notice enforcement system several years ago. 373 only applied to 6 particular bylaws, 4 of which are no longer active. The 2 that are active are the zoning bylaw and...
It specifically called them out.
It specifically called them out, and in fact, it referred to enforcement by the bylaw officers only with respect to 1 or 2 of them. So it wasn't even a wide application in terms of what the bylaw officers' enforcement role was. So, the other means of enforcement were to be by, say, for example, the building inspector or somebody else other than the bylaw enforcement officer. So it wasn't really set up in a way that was conducive to a bylaw officer having a wide range of enforcement powers. The other thing that was done was when we went to the bylaw notice enforcement system, that bylaw contains in section 11 provision for enforcement by way of bylaw enforcement officers or people who fall into a class that is, various classes that are listed under the statute, not the job positions that we have always held as being people who are our bylaw officers, such as public works manager, the fire chief, and the building inspector. And people appointed or designated as bylaw officers were only under that bylaw were designated for the purposes of enforcing just that bylaw, the bylaw notice enforcement bylaw and the bylaw notice enforcement act and its regulations. Now, within the bylaw notice enforcement bylaw, we are enforcing other bylaws, but it gets a little bit tenuous at some point, and also you may have situations where you want to enforce a bylaw, or you want your bylaw enforcement officers to be able to enforce bylaws which do not presently fall under our bylaw notice enforcement bylaw. Or we want to enforce something that is covered by the bylaw notice enforcement bylaw, but we want to do so outside of that bylaw, because that bylaw's only got $500 maximum fine. So if we wanted to go after somebody for cutting trees and wanted to go after them for several thousands of dollars, we'd have to go to court. And we'd certainly want our bylaw enforcement officer to assist with the process of enforcing that action, or other similar kinds of actions where we want to go above and beyond. We want to go to court for some reason. So anybody designated to act under the bylaw notice enforcement bylaw wouldn't have that power technically. So I thought we have some gaps, we have some gray areas, we have some potential areas that wouldn't be covered. So I would like to, that's why I thought it necessary to have this, which clearly sets out that your authority to go ahead and appoint bylaw officers, that their range of duties and responsibilities and powers and privileges are clearly set out, that they are wide-ranging. You also have the provision that people who occupy the positions of bylaw enforcement officers, public works manager, building inspector, fire chief, or chief administrative officer are automatically bylaw enforcement officers under this bylaw. And yeah, it just makes sure that all your bases are covered. So,
why can we not put these provisions into the enforcement bylaw?
The bylaw notice enforcement bylaw only pertains to matters covered in that bylaw. So as I was saying, you might want to cover things that aren't in that bylaw. You might want to enforce bylaws that aren't currently covered under that bylaw, because...
So is that bylaw deficient as well? If it
Not
doesn't,
necessarily. I mean, you can have bylaws that, to some extent, some zoning issues, if somebody was breaching a zoning bylaw, there are provisions of the zoning bylaw that if you breach them, you can, there are fines set out in that bylaw. But there might be other breaches of our zoning bylaw that maybe we want to throw a hammer at somebody, and so we've got to go above and beyond that bylaw. So to do so, we need to have people who are appointed and
So
designated.
that wouldn't be the guy driving around in his car. That would be the CAO, for example, who's a bylaw enforcement officer by this authority. I mean,
Yeah.
the reason I'm asking is, I'm seeking to reduce the number of bylaws, not increase them. So
Yeah,
this
no,
this one repeals one. Yes, that's true.
Mhm.
So it doesn't actually add to the number. But so you're telling me this cannot be amalgamated in effect with any other?
No, this should stand alone.
Is there any way to call this the enforcement officer bylaw? To not have this very confusing, there's another one that's the bylaw enforcement amendment bylaw.
Don't worry, those will all be consolidated in due course so that you'll only have one bylaw called the Bylaw Notice Enforcement Bylaw number 385, whatever year, and it'll be as amended. And all the amendments will be in that bylaw. You'll have one spot to go, and everything that's been amended on that bylaw will be in that one spot. So you'll have a...
So it sounds, quite a few bylaws will be repealed in that exercise.
Well, not necessarily repealed, but consolidated. And in the process of consolidation, I'm sure we'll find some that we can repeal. But the consolidation is something that needs to take place so that going forward, for one, as corporate officer, need to be able to look at bylaw and go, okay,
That's the law.
everything that's
Yeah,
happened,
that's
this
the current law.
is the current state of things,
Yeah.
not be hunting all over
That's
the place.
always been the case. It's
yeah,
always been a
yeah.
shortcoming.
So we're
So my
gonna get
question
there.
is, can we call this thing the enforcement officer bylaw instead of the bylaw enforcement officer?
They're called bylaw enforcement officers.
They
and I
are.
suggest that we stick with that lingo.
What
No,
about
I
a
know
peace
the one.
officer?
No, peace officer is
Peace officer, a
something,
whole different.
something
a whole
entirely different.
But
There's a
they-
whole common law thing around peace officers.
Yeah, so they are not, they don't, we don't need to designate any peace officer as a bylaw enforcement officer.
No.
You asking a
And-
bylaw enforcement officer to carry a gun?
No, the point is, right now, the RCMP has our ticket book. What
Yeah.
authorizes them to issue our tickets,
Mhm.
if anything? I'm asking.
Pardon me?
I'm asking.
Yeah, I believe they do.
They do,
They
Well-
have our ticket. They have our ticket.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
and are they authorized to issue tickets under what authority?
Under the authority of the Police Act.
Okay.
Yeah.
They can enforce anybody's bylaw under
Yeah.
some other authority,
Yeah.
not this one.
The RCMP can, yes.
Yeah.
That's
And
good.
we're not, just to be clear, we're not appointing bylaw officers in accordance with Section 36 of the Police Act. That's something totally different.
Clearly, yeah.
No.
No, I was vaguely aware that you have to appoint bylaw enforcement officers by bylaw, and we didn't have one before, essentially, you're saying, or a very restrictive one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you're telling me we have to call them bylaw enforcement officers and then repeat the word bylaw. The reason I say is because I know in the parking bylaw, they're called enforcement officers. I know that because that's where I pulled my terminology from for the new parking plan. So maybe that's a shortcoming, but that's nicety. That's semantics. I'm just trying to reduce confusion because we've seen a lot of bylaws that I lost track of what they were actually for.
But I think more would be done about confusion with Peter's way of consolidation than anything else in our
Yeah,
list of
yeah,
bylaws that we
absolutely.
have. I think
And this
that's
is a
the key.
housekeeping thing we have to do.
To streamline the process, I think that's the key. I think we have to keep it with the flow, make sure it is a bylaw enforcement officer we're talking about,
Mhm.
and not change from that, and then do the consolidation of all the crap that's in there, because there's pages and pages of it.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, other than my failed attempt to remove the word bylaw, I had no other comments. So, anybody else? So, I don't believe we're discussing this under a motion yet, a seconded motion? No?
No, I don't think
So can I have a motion, please, to do the first, second and third reading of the bylaw enforcement officer bylaw number 506 of 2016? Thanks, and a second. Any further discussion? Is it bad to discuss before you've got a motion, or does it not really matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so call the question. All in favour of first, second and third reading and opposed? That carries unanimously, in fact. Okay, good. Good catch, Peter, as always. Okay, correspondence. Ron, would you do the honors?
Thank you, Mayor. Blessedly short on the external and absolutely brilliant none on the internal from the residents. First one, G1, page 1, International Day of Older Persons. The Council of Senior Citizens Organizations of BC have asked us to recognize honor for October the 1st. And they've given us some stuff on this. I'm kind of a no on this one myself, no response required, it's whether we want to do it or not. I defer to you.
Okay, thumbs down. Jim? Yeah, I'm not in favor of shining a spotlight on stuff that's going to happen
Well,
anyway.
Considering what we do for the seniors.
And volunteers and, yeah.
Yeah, okay, next one, cigarette.
No, Fred?
It brings up the whole subject of proclamations. I didn't really see the point in them, quite frankly, and I think we've got so much other business and more important things to do. And for this one in particular, since I'm collecting the old age pension now, I think I'm fair enough to speak on this. I don't need a day. I mean,
Every day's your day.
Your birthday was your day.
I mean, it just seems like something pointless. And
Yeah,
if we approve something like this, all we've done is just thrown more workload on staff who are already
Exactly.
working on other things.
I don't want to make it substantive.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
no action.
G2, cigarette butt deposit return program. Of course, as we all know, smoking in our public areas is not allowed. I would refer to page 16, which is the thread of this, where North Vancouver has done their resolution and they're taking us to UBCM. So Mayor Burr will be bringing us back to us when he goes to that.
Yeah, they're intending to make this a provincial
All right.
initiative, so, okay.
G3, support for the passenger train petition. I thought we saw this earlier in the year. Obviously, it has not gone away. Obviously, it's still not running. I guess they're looking for us to join the petition. Nice to have, I guess, but for me, this is a private sector venture, and how do people beg for service? So,
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly it would be private citizens using it, but I would consider whether we would want to endorse this as a council, in that I've been advocating for better use of this line right through our community, for a resurrected commuter service, maybe not rapid rail. Obviously, my understanding is that the rail configuration doesn't allow for rapid rail, but slow rail from Squamish, maybe just a morning and evening commuter service. This is not quite the same thing, obviously. This is Prince George, but I believe the railway line is non-utilized. We get nothing out of it. Ultimately, we want to try and reduce traffic on the highway going through our community as well. I mean, I'm not necessarily asking council for a thought-through decision here.
Well, one point I would like to make on it, I think it's neat to have a passenger train come through here, but a few years back, I had relatives up from the States who went to Whistler, and the car broke down, crashed the truck actually, not ours. And so we had to get back to Lions Bay. And so we got bus tickets. And when we bought their tickets to go from Whistler to Lions Bay, the Gallup ticket agent said, "This is the first time I've ever sold tickets to Lions Bay from Whistler." So I think, how much would the train be used?
It wouldn't be, it would be used by anybody here who wanted to go where it went, when it went, which is, who knows. Yeah, I mean, rail as a transit thing is a long way away from Lions Bay, that's true. This is a passenger train from North Van to Prince George.
I think, personally, I've taken the train to Prince George, and it's a nice run. But the thing is that, we two times we used the Royal Hudson when they were using it along here, and it was a good thing. And I'm kind of sad to see that this rail line is now downgraded to just a freight line. And I think it's a very, very nice thing to have for the village, to have the train go through it.
Passenger train.
Passenger train, yeah. Yeah, not that. thing. You know,
I would
used to
support
enjoy
endorsing this just because
Yeah.
it adds to,
the ambiance of the village.
well,
or whatever you
if
call
that
it.
only, even that's good enough for me, but it's sort of, it's progress.
Yeah.
It's resident-focused progress. You know, we're not moving hazardous goods,
Yeah.
That's a good point.
and, you know, it has other benefits, but, Ron?
It's a private venture. Aren't enough people, or they make their own rules, or they charge $500 a ticket. They found it unviable. I mean,
Yeah, it's not like it's unauthorized now, although I believe they have to get right of way over CN's line.
yeah.
So in other words, nothing we do would make a difference anyway. If it was viable, they'd be doing it.
That's
I
right.
just, I don't think that, I think that it's also important to show support for something that's come from another municipality, and there's obviously North Van sees a benefit, and Prince George may see a benefit, I don't know. And so,
Well, North Van's got a huge vested interest.
well, of course they do, but the thing is that we're
And
close to
so
North
does
Van.
Prince
yeah.
George, so if you take.
Well, you'd hope it
Yeah.
would stop in
So if you
convenient
take the
places.
two of them out and in between, it'd be just like us, whether it's the ambience of kids waving as it goes by, or whether they stop for lunch, or who knows what they do. I'm fine with endorsing this. Let's look at-
I think what's actually being asked here is that the province
Well, it's-
sponsor this, subsidize this. That's the ultimate ask, because it doesn't work otherwise. Just like they have to subsidize the ferries,
Well,
and just like they
yeah,
have to,
whatever that number is, so,
Tell you what, why don't I just quickly talk to, I don't know if this is district or city, and ask them what their thinking was.
On
and
table?
report, yeah,
table this piece.
report back. So can you table that one, bring it back,
Okay.
next thing?
They're asking for, yeah, they're asking
So,
for us
well, I mean,
to
I
have
didn't look in
petition
the
signed, that's
website.
what it is.
Okay, so
Yeah.
next one, UBCM, Chrissy Clark invites Carl to have coffee with her.
Well, we already decided that I'm not going to attend this one, because it's in Victoria,
That's-
both for,
So
If-
about UBCM at all?
I mean, I have no need to go and sit in the what's the word? It starts with P. Oh. Plenary session to listen to people debate motions that are going to go nowhere.
Cigarette butts.
It's not, the efficacy of going is not to vote on motions on the floor unless there are some that are particularly prevalent to Lions Bay, but to set up meetings with ministers who, you know, you get your 15 minutes of fame to bend their ear, and depending on what it is,
Yeah,
whether you make any progress on things.
This is
but-
an election ploy, is what it is.
Yeah,
That's
there
all.
might, there might
Well,
be,
no. So I did go the last time, and I met with the Justice Minister, and I met with the community CSCD Minister, and that progressed the things that we were talking about, which was highway and grants. But I don't think we want to spend the money to send me to Victoria for 3 days. Although I must say I could actually stay with a buddy.
Not that you
If
have
you had a
to.
vote, you could just go over there on your own.
well, maybe,
Carl, do you want to go to Victoria? Yes, no?
When is it?
can I suggest we table it and discuss whether or not there are any potential
Benefits.
benefits?
Okay.
Dates too. I mean, I'm like the mayor. I could go to Victoria if he authorizes the budget. I don't have a buddy to stay with. So table would work.
Table it and decide whether we want to go first, and then obviously if we
Yeah.
want to request meetings with the various ministers. Okay.
Okay, done. The last one, or second to last, 2016 open for business. This is an effort to compute reducing the costs and complexities for doing business in BC. We'll just no response on that one. The annual drinking water quality report, it's our own report, and they're thanking us for that.
So the only thing that I had on this one is that I don't like the word in the final paragraph, improving. Our water quality is great. We want to maintain. And I would seek to get this letter either reissued or a change of attitude. I would like that. Thank you for your report, and I look forward to our continued collaboration in maintaining drinking water quality in the municipality, blah, blah, blah. I don't like the attitude expressed here, and I don't like this being on record like this.
Yeah, that's kind of a slap in the face, 'cause we don't
Yeah.
have that, we don't have an issue on bad water.
Exactly.
Yeah, could be.
Am I just being oversensitive on our behalf, or?
No.
No, just go to Surrey and take a drink of water, see what you think.
I mean, I would go to the extent of asking them to rewrite this letter.
Or Richmond.
I think we should ask them to rewrite the letter. Well, change the word.
Yeah, I mean, just,
Yeah.
Peter, is that a complete academic nicety?
Well, it appears in two places.
Yeah, it does actually.
But
It's a
Nah,
formula.
you
I
had
don't see a problem
conversations
with
with
that.
them, so I don't know what.
Yeah, I can send it back to them.
Okay.
Thank you. Staff hand.
I mean, essentially, my point is, we're going above and beyond. Our water quality is excellent. We've never transgressed. Correct.
I believe so.
Our turbidity has gone. It's gone above limits, but it's within guidelines. All that stuff. Yeah, I want to shout this from the rooftops. Really talk about improving.
On the plus side, it's good feedback for our staff maintaining our water system.
And that was my other. Yeah, let's talk about putting your money where your mouth is, or putting meat on a resolution. Yeah, I don't stand for that. Okay, so can you handle that now? About
Yes.
talking to Larishan about getting it's going to take a sea change in their attitude. Okay, maybe it's a nicety, but let's see what they have to say. Okay, good. Thanks, Ron. Okay, so motion to receive external correspondence and effect necessary tablings and actions as discussed. And thank you. In a second. All in favour of the above and opposed, that carries. Okay, so we're moving on to, let's just check, wishing to get the agenda. New business. None. Public questions and comments. And motion to close the council meeting under the authority of the Community Charter Section 91C. Thanks, and a second. All in favour of that? Opposed? That carries.
So, Peter. Sorry, just one sec.
You're welcome to stay, I believe, but you don't have to. Is that right, Peter? Okay, we're out of closed, back into open to correct procedural item to amend item 14 in the agenda for the grounds to close the council meeting, and I will make a motion that the meeting be closed to the public under the authority of the Community Charter Section 91C as before, and A, E, and L, and as well as Section 92B. Can I have a second? And all in favour, opposed, carried. Now the meeting's closed. Okay, we're resuming the open meeting at 10:35 on Thursday, the whateverth of 26th, thank you, of June. A motion to reopen the open meeting. Thank you. And a second. All in favour, opposed, that carries. Quorum being present, the meeting is duly constituted, and the last item on the agenda is to report out from the closed session. 3 items to report. Council enjoyed a fruitful and beneficial strategy planning session. Report will follow. Council is very pleased to confirm the appointment of Peter de Jong as CAO. His probation period stipulated in his contract has ended, and Peter is in the saddle. And the third one was appointment of 3 members to the Board of Variance. With thanks, the members are Ian Mackey, Peter Regglesworth, and Morgan Gatto. Does that do it for reporting out? Yep. Thanks. A motion to close the meeting, adjourn the meeting? Thanks. And a second. All in favour, opposed, carries. Meeting adjourned.